In a future devastated by conflicts over fuel, the Supreme Authority has established a safe city that relies on renewable energy from special flowers. Everyone who turns 16 undergoes a transformation process that makes them beautiful and flawless, allowing them to live in the city. Those under 16 are isolated as uglies until their time comes. Currently, Tally is at the academy, one of the ugly girls whose biggest dream is to become beautiful. Tally is so eager to see what she will look like after the transformation that she uses the AI in her room to show her future appearance. Only a few months remain until her 16th birthday, the age when she will undergo the procedure. One day, Tally sneaks out of her room and heads to the Academy's authority building where she finds Paris waiting for her. It's important to note that Paris grew up with Tally and they were deeply in love, planning to get married once they both moved to the city. Paris is supposed to undergo the transformation soon and tells Tally that he will wait for her until she has her procedure 3 months later. Then, they will live together in the city and perhaps even marry. The next day, there is a graduation party for Paris and many of his classmates at the academy. During the event, Dr. Cable, the head of the academy and the entire city, gives a speech to the attendees. After the party, Paris says goodbye to Tally and tells her he's going to undergo the transformation, but they agree that Tally will escape the academy after a month to meet him at a designated bridge. Days pass for Tally at the academy as she waits for the day she will reunite with Paris. During this period, she sends him messages, but he never replies. Despite this, Tally escapes on the agreed day and heads to the bridge, but Paris doesn't show up, leaving her puzzled. She then disguises herself and sneaks into the city to search for Paris. Eventually, she finds him. When she asks why he didn't come, he simply says he was busy. Tally begins to feel that Paris has changed and may want to distance himself from her. However, before she can question him further, soldiers arrive to arrest her for escaping the academy. Tally grabs a jump jacket and flees the scene, with the jacket protecting her from harm. She continues to run until she reaches the bridge, where a soldier approaches her in a plane. But before the soldier can do anything, a girl named Shay, Tally's friend from the academy, arrives. Shay brings a hoverboard and takes Tally with her. They escape together, eluding the soldiers. After their escape, Tally and Shay grow closer, and Tally asks Shay when her procedure is scheduled. Shay tells her that their operations are on the same day, which makes them both very happy. Shay then begins teaching Tally how to use the hoverboard. After lots of practice, they return to the academy, where they meet some of their classmates. Shay gives Tally a book about a place called the Shadow City, a place where free people live and aim to liberate the city from the Supreme Authority. Shay gifts the book to Tally to read. One day, Shay takes Tally to a place within the city and tells her everything. Tally discovers that Shay plans to escape to the Shadow City because she hates the academy and believes the Supreme Authority enslaves people after the transformation, turning them into mindless beings. Shay informs Tally that there's someone named David, the leader of the Shadow City, who will come to take her there. Shay plans to light a fire as a signal for David to come and get her. Shay offers Tally the chance to join her in escaping, but Tally refuses, still wanting to undergo the transformation and become beautiful. Shay respects Tally's decision and gives her a paper with directions to the Shadow City if she ever changes her mind. Shay bids Tally farewell, and Tally returns to the academy. Days pass until it's finally Tally's turn for the procedure. She goes to the designated place but finds many people waiting. She sits, waiting for her name to be called, but one by one, everyone else is called and Tally is left behind. In the end, a soldier arrives and asks her to follow him to Dr. Cable. At that moment, Dr. Cable sat with Tally and informed her that Shay had gone to the Shadow City. She explained that the Shadow City was a very dangerous place, not at all what Shay had imagined. Dr. Cable asked Tally to reveal the location of the Shadow City so they could rescue Shay, but Tally refused to betray her friend and didn't give Cable any information. Dr. Cable told her she was free to remain silent, but in doing so, she would never be able to undergo the beauty procedure. Afterward, Tally returned to her room at the academy. There, Paris came to visit her, speaking to her kindly this time. he urged her to tell Dr. Cable where Shay was so they could bring her back safely, and so Tally could have the operation and finally become beautiful. Unfortunately, Tally was convinced by Paris's words and decided to follow through with what was asked of her. Afterward, Tally went to Dr. Cable and informed her that she intended to go to the Shadow City to rescue Shay. Dr. Cable was pleased and told Tally that the Shadow City was manufacturing a highly dangerous weapon which they planned to use to annihilate the entire city and everyone in it. Cable asked Tally to gather information about this weapon and send a signal once she discovered its location so they could attack and destroy the Shadow City. She gave Tally a necklace and instructed her to use it to send the signal as soon as she found the weapon. Tally agreed and set out on a very long journey to reach Shay and the Shadow City. After a long trek, Tally arrived at a field filled with the flowers connected to renewable energy, the same ones mentioned earlier. She waited there as Shay had told her she would come to take her to the Shadow City once she reached this spot. Tally was exhausted and fell asleep for a while. After a short time, someone woke her up because the field she was in had started to catch fire. This person introduced himself as David, the leader of the Shadow City, and told her that he had come to take her to Shay and the city. Tally was overjoyed and went with him. We returned to Dr. Cable, who was sitting with Paris, asking him how he felt after his last meeting with Tally. Paris told her that he had felt something strange and that he still had feelings for Tally. Dr. Cable was surprised by this and informed him that she would perform a new procedure on him. Indeed, she took him to the operation room, and it became clear that Cable was conducting this procedure to eliminate any emotions Paris or anyone else might have. At this point, we begin to understand that Cable's operations are not what everyone thinks. They seem far from innocent, and something about them feels deeply unsettling. At this stage, Tally and David stop at a camp before reaching the Shadow City, as David can't reveal the city's location to Tally until he is certain of her intentions. At the camp, Tally meets Croy, David's assistant, who isn't entirely trusting of Tally, sensing that something suspicious might be behind her actions. However, that's not the focus for now. The important part is that Tally finally reunites with Shay, and both are overjoyed to see each other again. Shay can hardly believe it when she learns that Tally left the operation and chose to live with them in the Shadow City. But later that night, Tally sits down with Shay and reveals the truth. She didn't come to join them but to bring Shay back to the academy, as the city is about to be destroyed. In that moment, Shay is shocked and tells Tally that she refuses to return to the city, no matter what happens. Shay insists that if Tally doesn't believe in the Shadow City, she should leave, as she cannot stay among them with the intention of betraying them. Shay stresses that Tally cannot remain with them if she plans to destroy them from within. At this point, Tally thought deeply about her situation. In the end, she told Shay that she would stay in the Shadow City for a few days to decide whether she would remain there or return to Dr. Cable and the city. Shay agreed to this. The next day, David decided to carry out a new mission, burning a field planted with energy-producing plants. Tally was surprised and asked why they would burn the plants. David explained that these plants destroy the soil, and Dr. Cable had intended to plant them to ruin the world, except for her city, forcing everyone to live under her rule. Tally was shocked by this revelation, but decided to join the mission. David took both Tally and Shay in a helicopter, flying over the field, and they began setting it on fire. However, during the operation, Shay fell from the helicopter. Without hesitation, Tally jumped after her, diving into the flames and managing to save her. At the same time, Dr. Cable's soldiers, known as Scouts, arrived on the scene. These soldiers had unnatural strength, but none of them were able to catch Tally or Shay, and they managed to escape safely. After this incident, David began to trust Tally more. Because of this, he took her to the Shadow City, where Tally started living with the people there. She was incredibly happy, feeling as if she was among real people, rather than individuals whose sole purpose was to undergo operations to improve their external appearance. Tally started spending a lot of time with David, and he trained her in using weapons and other skills. One day, Shay spoke with Tally and told her it was clear that David liked her, and that Tally needed to decide whether she would stay or return to Dr. Cable and the academy. Tally told Shay she would think about it, as she hadn't made up her mind yet. Later, Tally sat down with David and told him she couldn't fully trust him because Dr. Cable had told her he was building a weapon to destroy her city. David explained that this was all a lie, and he decided to take her to meet his parents so they could explain the truth to her. When she met David's parents, they talked to Tally and revealed everything. They told her that they used to work with Dr. Cable in her company, and they were involved in the human transformation operations. But over time, they realized how corrupt these operations were, as they caused people to lose their humanity and minds, becoming completely controlled by Dr. Cable. People who underwent the procedure became like robots, knowing nothing about life except to obey Cable's commands, losing their emotions and intellect forever. David's parents also explained to Tally that there is a specific type of operation that turns humans into killing machines whose sole purpose is to fight Cable's enemies. These powerful fighters make up the scout army that works for Cable. They told Tally that when they discovered this, they tried to create a serum to cure people and restore their minds after the procedure, but Cable refused to use it because it went against her interests. That's why they escaped and founded the Shadow City, and they are still trying to create a cure. However, the serum requires materials that only Cable has access to, and without those materials, it won't work. After learning about all these horrifying truths, Tally went outside to stand with David, utterly shocked by what she had heard. She decided that she would never return to Cable and her corrupt city. In light of this, Tally took off the necklace she was supposed to use to summon Cable and threw it into the fire. However, she didn't realize that the necklace sent a signal to Cable the moment it was burned. The next morning, Tally and everyone else woke to the sound of planes flying overhead. Dr. Cable and her army, along with the scout soldiers, had arrived at the location. At this point, everyone tries to escape, but Dr. Cable and her forces capture most of them. However, Tally and David manage to hide. During the chaos, Tally notices that one of the scouts is Paris, which fills her with deep sadness over what has happened to him. Dr. Cable eventually reaches David's parents and demands that they hand over David to be killed, as he is the leader of the rebellion. David's parents refuse, so Dr. Cable orders Paris to kill David's father. Paris grabs David's father and is about to kill him. Just before it happens, Tally arrives with David and tries to stop Paris, but he doesn't respond and brutally kills David's father. Both David and Tally are captured. Dr. Cable then speaks to everyone and reveals that Tally was the one who betrayed them, luring them into a trap so she could undergo the transformation procedure. Everyone is shocked, and they start yelling at Tally, calling her a traitor, which makes her feel overwhelming anger. Tally quickly escapes from Dr. Cable and her soldiers, and David seizes the opportunity to escape as well. Unfortunately, Shay, David's mother, and the residents of the Shadow City are all captured. After everything that happened, Tally and David flee to a cave. There, David is furious and begins confronting Tally aggressively, grabbing a knife and nearly killing her. However, Tally stops him and starts explaining that Dr. Cable had tricked her and she wasn't aware of the truth. Despite her explanation, David isn't fully convinced and tells her that he is going to free his mother and his people from Cable's prisons. Tally offers to help him, telling him that she knows the prisons well and can guide him to them, saying that it's the least she can do to make up for her mistake. In the end, David agrees to her offer, and they set off together to Cable's prison. They search for the place where everyone is being held, and finally, they manage to find David's mother, Croy, and the other residents of the Shadow City, freeing them. However, Shay is not with them, as she is undergoing the procedure at that very moment. Tally is devastated and rushes to the operating room to try to save Shay, but she finds that the procedure has already been completed. At that moment, Dr. Cable and her forces arrive, capturing David, Tally, and David's mother. Dr. Cable decides to put them all through the procedure to erase their minds and fully control them. But suddenly, Croy appears, piloting a helicopter, and begins destroying the operation lab. Amidst the chaos, Tally and the others manage to escape, taking Shay with them. Before David's mother escapes, she manages to steal the materials needed to complete the serum they were trying to develop to restore people's minds after the procedure. Afterward, they all flee the academy, and at this moment, Tally sees Paris. She approaches him, trying to bring him back to his senses. It seems that Paris begins to regain his mind, but he is attacked by David, who hits him in revenge for his father's death. In the end, Paris falls and says goodbye to Tally before letting himself fall and die. After these events, the group goes to a safe place and tries to administer the cure to Shay. However, Shay refuses the treatment as she is now completely under the procedure's influence and wants to remain in that state. David's mother decides that they will not force Shay to take the serum. At this point, Tally reflects on everything and tells the group that she will return to the academy and undergo the procedure herself so that they can inject her with the serum afterward. Everyone thinks this is madness, but Tally believes it is the right decision. She asks David and the others to leave, and they do. Shortly after, Dr. Cable arrives with the scouts, captures Tally, and brings her back to the academy for the procedure. In the final scene, we see Tally living in the city after undergoing the transformation, but she still retains her memories and her mind. She remembers David and the others and decides to contact them so they can take her back to the Shadow City to try the serum on her and see if it will work. The movie ends with the understanding that Tally will return to the Shadow City, and there is a strong possibility that the serum will succeed.
If you want interesting movie recaps, like, share, and subscribe to follow us for more movie recaps.